They ignore you, not because you are weak, but because you are predictable. You speak, you explain, you try to smooth the tension, thinking it will earn peace. You mistake your clarity for strength, but to them, it is an open book, easy to read, easy to tear. What you call kindness, they register as softness. What you call empathy, they see as leverage. What you believe is understanding, they interpret as obedience. This is the uncomfortable truth. The more accessible you are, the less value they assign to your presence. Now pause, breathe, let this settle. If they keep crossing your boundaries, it is because you made them feel safe doing so. If they keep choosing others, it is because you never made them question the cost of losing you. If they speak over you, it is because you trained them to believe your silence is compliance, not calculation. You were not born to be overlooked. You were trained to make yourself small. Let us untrain that. Understand this. Human behavior is ruled by perceived consequence. People respect what they fear losing. They test, not to hurt you, but to map where the edge lies. If your response is emotional, you erase the edge. You become a known variable, an easy opponent, a person to be managed, not considered. They do not fear your words. They fear your silence. They do not respect your availability. They respect your distance. They do not value your kindness. They value the possibility that you might not always offer it. Most people are drawn to power they cannot fully predict. Not cruelty, not volume. Power, controlled, restrained, unreadable. This is where Machiavellian presence begins. You do not need to speak more, you need to speak less. You do not need to fix the perception, you need to become a perception. Elusive, controlled, unavailable for inspection. Start here. Let silence replace explanation. Let your pause carry more weight than your speech. Let them feel the space you do not fill. When someone insults you, do not react. When they question you, do not justify. When they challenge you, do not perform. Watch, note, withdraw. Let them speak to the absence they created. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be respected. These are different currencies. Emotional accessibility is a gift, not a currency. Do not hand it out like a flyer to those who do not read what you say. Preserve it. Lock it behind discernment. If you want to command respect without speaking, then master what others cannot see. Master your expression. It should never reflect internal chaos. You may feel the storm, but they must only see the stillness. Control your breath. Control your posture. Make them question what you know that they do not. This is not performance. It is power. Power begins when others feel less certain around you, not because you are aggressive, but because you are unshakably self-contained. Unpredictability is not wildness. It is strategy. Predictability is emotional exposure. It tells the world where you hurt, what you want, and how far you will go. Once they know that, they know the map. They stop exploring. They stop watching. They stop fearing your departure. The goal is not to be liked. It is to be regarded. You do not get there by demanding attention. You arrive by controlling access. You become the rarest person in the room, the one who does not need to prove anything, the one who could speak but does not, the one who could react but remains still, the one who knows that the most threatening move is often none at all. Withdraw. Do not flinch. Let the silence hang like a blade above the conversation. They will feel it. They will begin to recalibrate. Most people are governed by noise, by urgency, by the desire to explain, to be validated, to be understood. This is why they speak too often and say too much. They fill the silence, afraid of what it might reveal. But you are learning to reverse this. You are learning that silence is not absence. It is presence without permission. It is the sharpest form of communication because it forces others to hear themselves in the void you leave behind. Now you begin to see. To command respect without speaking, you must become the question they cannot answer, the presence they cannot predict, the consequence they did not anticipate. A predictable person invites no caution, a mysterious one demands it. Understand this principle: people treat you according to the emotional terms you set. If you are always available, you teach them that you are an option, not a cost. If you always respond, you teach them that you are easily summoned. If you always forgive, you teach them that your pain has no consequence. You must make them calculate. If someone disrespects you and nothing changes you, just train them to do it again. They will not remember the words you said in defense. They will remember that nothing shifted, that you remained in place, that you allowed it and called it peace. That is not peace. That is surrender. Begin here. The next time they test your value, do not raise your voice. Do not defend your worth. Remove your presence. Shift the balance of power with your absence. That is the lesson they will remember. Coldness is not cruelty. It is the language of boundaries. Warmth without consequence is weakness. Respect is not born from kindness. It is born from clarity. And clarity is best delivered in silence. Do not repeat yourself. Do not explain your pain twice. Do not teach them through emotion. Teach them through consequence. Not because you are vindictive, but because your standards must be sharper than your feelings. Now observe your environment. You will see it with new eyes. Watch how people crowd the loudest one in the room, but obey the quietest. Watch how the one who reveals nothing is never mocked, never dismissed, never targeted. Watch how those who explain least influence most. It is not charisma that commands the room. It is containment. The ability to exist without pleading for attention. That is what others cannot replicate. When you enter a space, say less, look longer. Speak only when silence would be a lesser weapon. Let them wonder what you are calculating. Let them question if they were just measured and found wanting. Let your posture speak of precision. Let your energy be still. Let your tone be deliberate, even when few words are spoken. Be known for a calm that unnerves the chaotic, for a stillness that signals power, not passivity. You will be tested. People will poke at your silence. They will say you are arrogant. They will say you are distant. They will say you have changed. Do not flinch. Let them speak. Let them try to draw you back into the performance they were comfortable controlling. Their discomfort is your boundary being felt. Their confusion is your unpredictability at work. They do not have to like it. That is not your goal. You were not made to be universally liked. You were made to be impossible to dismiss. There will be moments when your old habits rise, when you want to explain yourself, to reassure them, to smooth the edge. This is weakness whispering. It is the ghost of the obedient version of you, the one who was easier to manipulate. Silence it. Return to presence. Return to control. Return to the truth that stillness speaks louder than desperation ever could. Remember, every time you withhold your reaction, you gain control. Every time you delay your response, you reclaim power. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you add to the weight of your presence. People cannot respect what they can always access. Become expensive. Become rare. Become studied, not solved. There is a difference between being seen and being assessed. Most people seek attention. Few learn how to hold it without speaking. That difference is the gap between approval and dominance. Dominance, in the Machiavellian sense, is not the loud threat of force. It is the silent shaping of perception. It is the ability to change the temperature in the room by entering it, not with volume, with gravity. To command respect without saying a word, you must first remove the emotional debris from your presence. This means you must kill the impulse to please. That reflex is a leash they can pull. If they know you want their favor, they will weaponize your need for it. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. But understand what this means in the modern world. Fear does not mean intimidation. It means unpredictability. It means others fear losing your favor more than they trust gaining it. This is where leverage is born. When you become emotionally neutral, you stop broadcasting your needs. You stop alerting the room to what you want, what you fear, what you hope they will give. You strip your presence down to something harder, quieter, cleaner. You leave nothing obvious on the table, and that makes people look twice. Then look again. They cannot read you, they cannot dismiss you, so they adjust to you. That is power. Now listen carefully. There is a technique known to those who move in power. It is called strategic silence. You do not retreat forever. You retreat with purpose. You do not speak less to vanish. You speak less to control the rhythm of attention. This means your pauses are placed like daggers. Your eye contact is calculated, never flinching. Your decisions are delivered with such certainty. They invite no debate. And your silence always implies thought, not absence. Most people fill space because they fear being forgotten. You, however, begin to understand that space is a weapon. That presence is not measured by how often you speak, but by how little others are willing to disturb you. Now shift your posture. No fidgeting, no wandering gaze, no nervous laughter. Stand still, sit tall, breathe slowly. When you speak, let your voice land like stone, not water. When you do not speak, let the silence stretch until they must sit with themselves. They will feel the weight of your discipline. Your coldness will be studied. Your distance will be debated. Your presence will be dissected by those who once underestimated you. They will ask what changed. They will suspect strategy. They will not be wrong. What changed was not the world. It was your decision to stop making yourself small for the comfort of others. Do not walk that decision back. Let people adapt to your gravity, or let them drift. Do not adjust your volume to be heard by those who have no intention of listening. Let your absence say what your words once begged them to understand. Distance creates perspective. In distance, people remember your silence more clearly than they ever remembered your speech. They hear it when they realize you are not chasing, not replying, not returning. That is when respect begins to grow. Not in the moment they win your attention, but in the moment they realize they cannot control it. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. The most powerful people in any room are not loud. They are composed. Their emotions do not leak into their posture. Their silence is not anxious. Their gaze does not seek approval. And their decisions are made without committee. That is your goal. Not arrogance, authority, not dominance, discernment. Withdraw when your value is questioned. Speak only when your words cannot be replaced by stillness. Watch more than you reveal. Think twice, move once, and never explain the same thing twice. You are not here to be convincing. You are here to be unmistakable. The world is full of noise. Be the pause they cannot ignore. You must understand what happens when you become unreadable. They begin to project. In the silence, in the distance, in your stillness, they begin to imagine. They wonder what you know. They question what you are planning. They replay their last interaction with you, searching for meaning, for mistake, for message. This is the psychological weight of your new presence. By refusing to be easily known, you force others to do the work. That is the shift. You no longer manage their perception. You let them wrestle with it. You let them fill in the gaps. And in those gaps, their assumptions often say more about them than about you. That is the mirror effect of power. Now listen carefully. If you wish to remain unreadable, you must betray your own patterns. Do not rise to the same bait twice. Do not respond from the same place. Do not become a machine they can program with familiar inputs. Predictable behavior is the death of psychological influence. People map others by repetition. They test and they note the result. They push and watch who bends. They withdraw and see who chases. These are not cruel games. They are survival instincts. Everyone wants to know where they stand and who they can stand above. When you stop being predictable, you remove the ladder. They cannot step above you if they cannot see where your steps land. They cannot prepare for your actions if your actions are not driven by emotion. And they cannot exploit your rhythm if your rhythm is not theirs to hear. You must become the dissonant note in their composition, the silence where they expected sound, the pause where they expected explanation, the stillness where they expected movement. This is how you command without speaking. You teach them to watch you, to adjust to you, and you do it not by demand but by design. When they no longer feel certain of how you will react, they become cautious. That caution is the beginning of respect. Remember this: most people act out when they feel safe from consequence. Your silence introduces uncertainty. Your distance introduces consequence. And your emotional neutrality ensures they cannot trace where the blade is hidden. You are no longer giving them the map. They do not need to understand you to feel your presence. In fact, the less they understand, the more they must observe. They lean forward, trying to read your face, trying to decipher your pauses, trying to guess what you have not said. Let them try. Do not give them the answer. Be the problem they must solve with better behavior. In your new form, kindness still exists, but it is not the soft, boundaryless warmth you once offered. It is reserved, precision cut. It is a currency given only to those who have earned it, and removed from those who abuse it. Your silence is not indifference. It is judgment. You are no longer emotionally accessible to anyone who merely reaches for your energy. They must approach with respect, with intention, with proof. This is not superiority. This is self-respect evolved into presence. Now, observe your world again. Watch how they begin to hesitate before speaking, how they seek your reaction before finishing a sentence, how they mirror your composure, hoping to match your rhythm, how they grow quieter, more thoughtful, more uncertain. This is the impact of unreadable power, not through threat, not through cruelty, through controlled absence, through the cold discipline of not reacting when every part of you once needed to speak. You are not here to correct them. You are here to replace them with silence if needed. You are not here to please them. You are here to remind them that your presence was never owed. Commanding respect is not about raising your voice. It is about raising the cost of disrespect. When they feel that cost, they will adjust. If they do not, you do not speak. You do not explain. You do not beg. You vanish. And in the space you leave behind, they will learn what your presence was truly worth. There is a moment after you withdraw, after you go silent, when they begin to feel the weight of what they lost. They may not admit it. They may not say it, but they will feel it. This moment is not for revenge. It is for reinforcement. Understand this. If you return too soon, if you explain why you pulled away, if you reopen the doors they closed, you destroy the lesson. You teach them that your silence was temporary, that your boundaries are flexible, that your presence is for negotiation. Never negotiate your value. When you walk away, mean it. When you go silent, protect it. When you distance yourself, let the emptiness speak. Let it echo. Let it teach them in a language that words cannot translate. This is not cruelty. This is how boundaries evolve into power. You must become emotionally disciplined. That means no longer being ruled by the urge to fix, to clarify, to gain closure. Closure is not always granted by others. Sometimes it is claimed in silence, in distance, in the finality of your absence. This is where most people fail. They speak too soon. They return too quickly. They explain too much. And by doing so, they dilute their own transformation. You are no longer that person. You do not need them to know how much they hurt you. You do not need them to understand why you left. You do not need them to validate your experience. You already know. And because you know, you no longer perform for acknowledgement. You no longer play the emotional court jester in someone else's palace. You become the throne, unshaken, unapologetic, undeniably present even in absence. From this new ground, you will find that your words begin to land differently. When you finally do speak, people listen. When you show warmth, it feels earned. When you return, it feels like a decision, not a drift. You have taught them something rare. Your presence has weight. Most people are noise. They speak to be heard and are forgotten. You are silence, and silence, when chosen, is remembered. Now listen carefully. There will be people who test your boundaries just to see if they were real. There will be people who return, not because they respect you, but because they miss the version of you they could manipulate. There will be people who pretend to mirror your stillness, hoping it will draw you closer. Watch, but do not flinch. Their return is not your victory. Your detachment is. Power is not regained through reconnection. Power is sustained through discipline. You may still care, but you will not chase. You may still feel, but you will not reveal. You may still remember, but you will not return to teach the same lesson twice. Let that be your doctrine. To command respect without speaking, you must become your own consequence. You must be the shift in temperature they did not anticipate. You must become the absence that clarifies your worth more than 1,000 explanations ever could. You are no longer the emotionally transparent figure they once used for comfort. You are now the unseen blade behind the silence, the unspoken warning in the pause, the unreadable presence in the room that everyone senses but no one controls. This is what it means to rule without force, to be watched more than you speak, to be considered before you act, to be missed in silence more than you were praised in presence. You do not raise your voice. You raise the cost of access. You do not demand apology. You demand changed behavior. You do not seek validation. You seek alignment. You do not explain who you are. You become so composed, so precise, so quietly formidable that explanation is no longer required. In a world that teaches emotional exposure as connection, you have chosen emotional neutrality as strength. They will not understand it at first. They will call it cold. They will call it cruel. Let them. In time, they will understand. Respect always arrives later than you wanted, but exactly when it is earned. And when it does, you will not need to say a word. Power ends where reaction begins. You now understand this. You have learned to slow your breath instead of your words. You have learned to watch without offering correction. You have learned that your silence, when disciplined, is not the absence of power, it is its perfection. The final step is to live this truth without wavering, because the world will try to pull you back. They will tempt you with familiarity. They will ask for the version of you that spoke too soon, gave too much, stayed too long. They will miss the version of you that begged to be seen, but that person has been buried, and in their place stands someone sharper, quieter, still, someone who no longer explains their worth, but simply vanishes when it is not recognized. That is the deepest form of power, not in being feared, not in being adored, but in being beyond their grasp. So now, you operate from this stillness. In conversation, you no longer fill gaps. You let others reveal themselves in their hurry to interpret your silence. You do not interrupt. You do not correct. You do not overshare. You observe, and in that observation, you gain everything. They show you who they are while trying to figure out who you might be. In conflict, you no longer justify your position. You no longer argue for your boundaries. You no longer plead to be treated fairly. You remove yourself. You make your absence the loudest statement. You let them feel the silence where your defense once stood. And in presence, you command without demand. You walk into a room without bending to it. You allow your energy to arrive first, your voice second, and your opinion last. You are no longer rushing to be seen. You have become someone who is watched. This is the transformation. You no longer chase anything that must be convinced. You no longer teach those who refuse to learn. You no longer explain to those committed to misunderstanding. You are not emotional armor for the careless. You are not validation for the insecure. You are not a mouthpiece for the grateful. You are presence. You are stillness. You are the absence that teaches harder than words ever could. People begin to notice. Not immediately, not loudly, but inevitably. They notice that their words now hang in the air longer, waiting for your response. They notice that your expression does not shift to please them. They notice that your attention, once constant, has become conditional, and that change unsettles them. That is how they begin to respect you. Respect is not a performance. It is a pattern, and your new pattern is this. You no longer react to disrespect. You punish it not with aggression, but with unavailability. You are not cold. You are calibrated. You are not distant. You are discerning. You are not silent because you have nothing to say. You are silent because not everything is worth saying. Now, let them talk. Let them guess. Let them wonder if they ever truly knew you. Let them replay the moments when they could have acted differently. Let them sit with the possibility that they misread the calm for weakness. This is how you teach. Not through shouting, through absence. Not through confrontation, through indifference. Not through revenge, through distance. Let them miss you. Let them feel the void. Let them learn that access to you was not permanent. It was a privilege, and it expired the moment they stopped respecting its cost. From this point forward, you move differently. You are slow to explain, hard to read, impossible to replace. You are no longer the person who tries to fix the tension in the room. You are the one who makes others question if they caused it. You are no longer the one who calms the conflict. You are the one whose silence sharpens it. You are now the consequence. Let that truth settle in your chest. The most powerful person in the room is not the one who speaks first. It is the one who could speak and chooses not to. You are that person now. Speak rarely, move precisely, vanish when necessary, and they will remember your silence longer than they ever remembered your words. Share this with someone who needs to hear it.